We celebrated the 100th anniversary of Browning Field in Moline. Today, with this program, we initiate a celebration for the 85th anniversary of its neighbor, Wharton Field House, which comes in December. This presentation is drawn from a new book, research written by Diann and myself. Currently, the book is in the final editing stage. We expect it to be available early next year. Cross your fingers. We gratefully acknowledge the Moline Preservation Society for their support, and also Ben and Lois Larson McAdams are here, who provided additional support for the book project. And lots of other individuals and organizations have helped us along the way. I won't be able to mention them, but we hope we got them all in the acknowledgments in the book. We really appreciate the help of many people. The book will be published by Heritage Documentaries, a Quad City-based nonprofit organization dedicated to the creation of documentaries, books, and programs telling the stories of diverse peoples, places, and events of the past and present. Thus far, Heritage has produced 2 books, one of which has been mentioned, and 2 video documentaries. And I'll point out that as long as your calendar is filling up, December 5th in the evening at 7 o'clock at Figge Art Museum, we are showing the Rock Island Prison, Civil War prison documentary, and the writers and directors will be there to comment on it and answer questions. When the new Moline High School opened in 1915, its gymnasium became the site of Moline basketball games. In the early 1920s, however, someone observed the growing popularity of basketball produced such congestion at games in the school gymnasium that only the hardiest enthusiasts could endure the discomforts of attending. A movement was born to fund and build a new facility, not only for basketball, but for a variety of community gatherings and entertainment activities. During the winter of 1926-27, a committee including athletic manager C.W. Holmgren, Winnie Holmgren, some of you would know, Coach George Seneff, and architect William Schultzke took a field trip to gather information on other arenas. Because no large high school arenas had been built in Illinois, they went to Indiana, where basketball was thriving. Some of their ideas for the Moline Arena were hatched in the Hoosier State. One of the places they visited in Indiana was Logansport. No doubt the Logansport connection was established by Reverend W.A. Steinkraus of Moline's First Baptist Church. Before moving to Moline, he had lived in Logansport and helped that community plan and fund a new 5,000-seat high school gym, which opened in January 1927. The new gym was called the Berry Bowl, after the nickname of the Logansport high school teams, the Berries, as in Logan Berries. Get it? Yeah. Clever folks. The Indiana trip and other research revealed that the best method would be to create a volunteer organization to issue bonds. So, the Maroon and White Association, an independent group headed by Theodore Finley Wharton, was created. In the spring of 1928, the association raised a total of $175,000 through the sale of bonds. It was truly a community effort. A total of 155 volunteers sold bonds to a total of 1,200 people in the community. Nearly $50,000 was raised by Moline school students in bond sales, in the bond sales competition among high school classes and among elementary schools. The juniors beat the other high school classes, and the Garfield students won the competition among the grade schools. Both are honored by plaques mounted in the lobby of the Fieldhouse. This sketch is the first rendering of the Fieldhouse design drawn by William Schultzke in December 1927. This view from the southwest shows the building as it would have been located in today's Browning Park, just west of Browning Field. It has 2 main entrances that would have faced 16th Street. However, a variety of problems emerged and it turned out to be not feasible to build at that location. So in February 1928, the decision was made to build on 20th Avenue in a location north of Browning Field. It's up in the upper left-hand corner of that aerial photo. Preparations for construction began in May 1928, and by September, the superstructure was in place. William Schultzke, designer of the field house, was one of Molin's most prolific architects. Among his other notable landmarks are the 1930 Scottish Rite Cathedral, the 1931 Art Deco Fifth Avenue building, and several other downtown buildings. Here he is admiring his seating plan for the new field house. The Moline Field House was dedicated on the evening of December 21st, 1928. It featured a high school basketball game between Moline and Kewanee, and a college game between the University of Iowa and Marquette University in Milwaukee. At the dedication ceremony, this engraved loving cup was presented to T.F. Wharton by board members of the Maroon and White Association. Frank Allen, who 5 years later would donate his mansion to the Moline Schools, Allendale, made the presentation. Today, Wharton Field House is the second largest high school arena in the United States that was built before 1930. A small number of historic collegiate arenas also remain from that era. Two were dedicated the same year as the Moline Field House, 1928. In the upper left is Hinckley Field House at Butler University in Indianapolis, which was the largest college basketball venue from 1928 to 1950. Below is actually the first game at Williams Arena at the University of Minnesota, also opened in 1928, and it was expanded in 1950 to become the largest college arena. Now, for the rest of the afternoon, but the rest of this presentation, I'll take you on a tour of some of the events the field house has hosted over the years, roughly in chronological order. And be alert, because there will be quizzes along the way. The first large crowd for a high school basketball game was on 10-cent night, February 21st, 1930. You can see lots of people standing on the main floor, as bleachers had not yet been set up there. Also, if you have sharp eyes, you can see an 8-foot high net surrounding the playing floor. A major event, the Pageant of Progress, it was called the Quad City Pageant of Progress. Fairly early reference to Quad City, by the way. We can talk about that later if you want. Was held for four times at Wharton, 1929, 1930, 31, and 1937. In addition to exhibits and entertainment, 3 of those pageants included a public wedding. Here's a photograph of the 1930 wedding party. A total of 6,522 people were on hand to witness that wedding. I'd like to have that many at your wedding. Here are some of the exhibits at the 1937 Pageant of Progress. One of the most popular and long-standing events at the field house began there in 1929 and continued for 28 years. The Moline Kiwanis Club hosted an annual series of dinners and programs, especially for local farmers. At first, chicken dinners were served, as was the case in this 1930 scene. Later, the dinners were abandoned, and the event primarily featured entertainment. Here's an advertisement for the last of these parties in 1956. Okay, time for a quiz. It's a fairly easy one, so don't panic. Who was the heavyweight boxing champion of the world in 1931? Ben, you're not allowed to answer. A few other select people are not allowed to answer this. Not Jack Dempsey, although you're warm.
Max Baer.
Not Lewis, not Baer, not Braddock.
Muhammad Ali.
I'm surprised. Mike? Not Max Baer.
Close on the Max. Close on the Max.
Yeah, Max. Max is the first name. Schmeling,
Schmeling.
world heavyweight champion. There he is. In that year, two of the most prominent boxers in the world visited the Fieldhouse. Champion Max Schmeling and also Jack Dempsey, who had been champion from 1919 to 1926. On the right, as you can see, is a diagram showing the seating arrangement on the basketball floor for boxing and wrestling. 1,260 seats are shown on the basketball floor, which means that up to 7,000 spectators could be accommodated in the Fieldhouse, okay? And nearly that many attended for the Dempsey fight. The big band era was in full swing when the first famous orchestra showed up at Wharton in 1936. Others would follow through the 1940s. This Jan Garber show offered dancing until 2 a.m. One of the more spectacular events at the Fieldhouse was the Deere & Company's 100th anniversary celebration in 1937. 7 programs held over 6 days attracted a total of 35,000 Deere employees and their family members. In addition to vaudeville acts and other entertainment, the movie The Blacksmith's Gift, starring Monty Blue, was shown at these events. Here is Monty on the far right with other performers on the stage. You're probably wondering, quite a few college basketball games were played at Wharton in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. So, thank you. Some of them involved local teams from Augustana and St. Ambrose. One highlight was in December 1939 when Augie took on the University of Oregon. Earlier that year in March, the Oregon Ducks had won the very first NCAA National Basketball Championship. And of course, predictably, in this game, Augustana lost 57-22. In 1940, Fieldhouse ownership was transferred from the Maroon and White Association to the Moline School District. Then on July 1st, 1941, the name of the arena was changed from the Moline Fieldhouse to Wharton Field House, after Theodore Fenley Wharton, who was the main driving force behind the creation and early operation of the facility. Wharton died 2 years later at age 73. In January 1943, some 4,800 people crowded the Fieldhouse for the game between Moline High School and Paris. That's Paris, Illinois. The Maroons won 37-34. It was the first defeat for Paris since the previous year. Unfortunately, Paris turned the tables on Moline 2 months later, defeating them in the state final game in Champaign. It was a similar story the year before when Moline beat Freeport at home, but lost to them